All right. Welcome back to the Driven to Learn podcast. I'm your host, Coretta Lemetra. I am really excited to share my thoughts today with you about the reason why test prep cannot just be something you give your students for them to help crush the SAT and ACT to get phenomenal scores that give them access to scholarships in schools, but is also something that builds them as the kind of learners you want to send out into the world. Learners that your school is proud of, that you know are set up for success for the rest of their life. Good test prep is not just about preparing for a test. It's about using the environment of test prep to teach students how confidence is built, kind of counterintuitively. A lot of people think of test prep or tests and they think stress, stress, stress. But for those who lean in and who have a good mentor, test prep shows them how powerful they are, how much agency they have, and how in the rest of their life, when they're faced with a challenge, that there is a gap between where they are and where they want to be. How to build an efficient bridge, how to ask for help, and how to make a timeline that gets them from where they are to where they want to be. It's a superpower. It makes life so much easier. So there's 3 reasons why test prep is one of the best environments for teaching students how confidence is built. Students are overwhelmed by decisions, especially in the college admissions process. They're thinking, okay, who do I want to be in life? What do I want to study? Where do I want to go to school? Do I want to be close to my parents? Do I want to study abroad? What kind of clothes do I want to wear? How do I want to present myself? And all of those decisions and the pressure from their families, from society, can make them very overwhelmed. It can feel like there's not enough space in their brain to just take a second and make decisions. And maybe even a simple decision might become overwhelming. You know, they're in the grocery store. How many of us haven't had that moment where you're like, this shouldn't be a hard decision, but something in me is so overwhelmed that this feels like an impossible decision. And your brain is giving you all this information when really what you need to do is take a beat, feel your body, shake out the stress, make that decision and move on with your life. So a lot of students come to me and they're overwhelmed. So test prep is a wonderful place to practice taking what feels like an infinite amount of information and decisions and distilling it down to what matters and what is manageable. When students think about the ACT or SAT, they see this mystery box. What is it testing? How is it going to be tested? How are they going to feel on test day? What do they need to do? Are they going to have to study for hours and hours and hours? Are they going to study enough? When you don't know exactly what you're dealing with, your brain can get really overwhelmed. So effective SAT and ACT prep can teach them how to take something unknown and complex and distill for themselves, and by asking for help, what matters most. So with the SAT and the ACT, that means identifying what are the specific skills that I am lacking right now that I need to learn in order to get to my score goal. Not I'm going to learn everything in the world that is in math and in English. I'm going to sit down with a book or sit down with a coach or a tutor and say, hey, could you look at my practice test? Or they can do it on their own if they're well organized and motivated. Look at what they've already learned and look at that score report and identify what are the categories where I'm missing information. That's the first step. Then looking specifically at a resource, there's so many good resources. And because there's so many good ones, I actually want to make this simple. Just pick one. Many good ones. There's the Princeton Review makes great resources. Kaplan makes great resources. Barron's. Just pick one. They're all going to get you moving in the right direction. the official test prep guides as well. And to look specifically at those skills and decide, okay, I need to spend time learning exponent rules. And then write that down. Put a little checkbox next to it. So that they create for math, here's my plan. These are the 10 things I'm going to focus on, or maybe it's 3 things I'm going to focus on. And what really takes it to the next level is saying, okay, that's going to improve my score by X amount. And that's a very reasonable prediction that students can make, because on the score report, it will say how many questions are in that category, right? Maybe they got 3 out of 10 in that category correct, or 6 out of 10. Well, if they dial in the skills that they're missing, they can add another 2, 5, whatever it is, points in that category. Or if we're talking SAT, maybe 50 or 10 to 100, whatever it may be, they can make their prediction and have that prediction of the score improvement they want directly tied to the specific steps that they need to take to get that score improvement. It's very empowering. You're like, okay, well, if I learn how to use my calculator to graph things, then that's going to help me across questions. I guess that's not the best example in terms of connecting a specific score improvement to a specific skill. That being said, calculator usage is one that is hugely impactful. So the second reason why building confidence is so doable during test prep is because a lot of students come in and they picture themselves studying for hours and hours and hours, and they already have baseball practice, maybe other commitments outside of school clubs as well, family time, friendships, hobbies. They have a lot of demands on their time going on, right? Just like all of us. But the beauty is that actually good test prep is not an endless series of practice questions. It's very strategic. Identify exactly what skills you need to learn, and then practice those. And then look at which questions you're getting wrong, and look at the correct answers and the explanations, and then turn that wrong question into something you can get right the next time. Learning those specific skills, because they're not just throwing potatoes at the wall trying to make progress, is a much more efficient way to get to where they want to go, and can save students an immense amount of time and can help make their practice time a lot more efficient. The other thing I will say is that there's a couple important strategy shifts that students need to make when they go from classwork to the SAT or ACT. Check out some of my other episodes that talk about, for example, reading on the ACT. Reading on the ACT is not about being able to bring out outside information or be creative when writing a poem. It's very much about literal reading. So knowing these specific mindset shifts or strategy shifts is also incredibly empowering for your students. The third reason why test prep is such a juicy place for teaching students how confidence is built. First of all, they're able to look at something that felt complex and overwhelming, do some research by looking at good books, and identify exactly what they need to learn and how many points that's going to give them. By the way, they also need those strategy shifts, which is why having a really good ACT, SAT coach on hand is essential. Second of all, they're overwhelmed by demands on their time. Having a good strategy makes their priorities into a clear, realistic study plan that's time-bound, not just endless practice questions. That's just stressful and inefficient. The third reason, though, why test prep is the perfect environment to practice the skill of confidence is that a lot of students come in with the mindset that making mistakes is a flaw. It's a character flaw. It's a flaw in their intelligence. They come in with this unrealistic expectation that they, quote unquote, should be getting something right. And then their minds go wild and they think, well, Jenny's probably getting these questions right. Or I bet so and so isn't struggling. The classic, let's compare in our head, and it takes away from our own joy and our own progress. So, this is actually really not bad at all, because this is the perfect opportunity for students to learn a skill that will serve them for the rest of their life, which is that failure is feedback and it's a sign you're making progress. Because if you hadn't even tried, you would get the same score that you were getting all along. But if you try and you get that question wrong, boom, you have moved towards success, because now you know exactly which questions you're going to get wrong on the test. This is a standardized test. You're going to get the same questions wrong every time. So once you've identified a question you've gotten wrong, that means just look at the answer key. What did they need you to do? It's very specific. They can sit there for 10 minutes and study that question. And suddenly they've learned something that will increase their score on the test. It's amazing, right? How many times in your life have you thought, I can't do something, or you've compared yourself to someone else, or you've wondered if you're ever going to be able to do the thing that you really want to do, but you're really intimidated to do? Your students going out in the world knowing, hey, I failed that. Cool, okay, I can learn from that. Who can I ask? Who can help me? Oh, I know there's an answer key here. I'm going to sit down and learn it. That ability to sit with those emotions and the stories of I should, it's bad that I'm getting this wrong, and choose action. That's what builds confidence. Action builds confidence. Those stories that are in their head, it's okay. It's okay that their brains are saying I can't. Sometimes I help my students interrupt those voices through clever little distractions, right? I'll say, you know what? I have a scared voice in my head sometimes too. And honestly, she kind of shows up like a little kid. She's like, this is intimidating. We can't do this. Well, she doesn't sound like that. She sounds a lot more like, ah. So this has been really effective, actually. Tell that little scared kid inside your brain, hey, do you want a popsicle? And weirdly enough, it works. And it might not work for your kid. Ask your inner kid what they need to distract themselves. Maybe they want to, I don't know, play Xbox for a little while. Then that little kid in that part of your brain is playing Xbox, while the adult in you, or the adult in your students, almost adult, young adult, chooses action. They choose their plan. They choose to move forward. And if they don't have enough information in front of them, right, their answer key isn't making sense to them, then tell them it's good to ask for help. That is a skill that's going to serve them for the rest of their lives. How many people, I had to learn this myself. I'm still learning this, but this is a phenomenon across the United States. People are like, oh, I don't know how to ask for help. I don't like asking for help. Well, there's a difference between never trying something yourself and being never trying something yourself. Like, okay, yes, if you have the answer key in front of you, try. Read it, try. But if it doesn't make sense, go ask your teacher. Go ask your SAT, ACT tutor. Go ask your parents if you can work with a tutor, right? Advocate for yourself. How much better would a lot of adults be if they just, when they were really struggling, or they just wanted to learn something cool, they gave themselves permission to access the resource that would transform their lives. And we want each other's lives to be transformed, right? You want these students to go out in the world and advocate for themselves, to give help when help is asked for, because they know how valuable it is. You want them to go out there and do cool things that are hard, that no one's done before. And instead of thinking, oh, I can't do that, no one's done that before, they'll say, okay, well, I'm going to try something and I'll learn from it. And I know what my goal is, because I've taken this complex thing and figured out what's the most important next 2 steps. I've made a time-bound plan, and I know how to ask for help, and I know that failure means progress. Students, when you approach the ACT and the SAT prep process like this, the way they glow, I might make myself cry right now. The way they glow, the way they put their shoulders back, the way they're proud. That's why we educate, right? That's why we work with students, because we want them going into the world knowing they're going to thrive, curious, brave, knowing they've got a community that stands by them. And when you approach test prep as an opportunity for them to learn skills that are going to serve them in college, way beyond college though, when they have kids and they're like, I don't know what to do. Oh, that's okay. Why don't I ask for help? Why don't I make a clear plan of what is going on and what I need help with? Students develop that sense of pride and of ownership and of confidence. They learn, this is my mind, this is my time. I can develop my abilities. I'm supported by a community that wants me to thrive. And they learn that confidence comes from taking action and from asking for help when they need it. And it's not from feeling fearless. It's not from not having doubts about their own abilities. That's okay. It's okay coming in and comparing yourself to other people. Just let those, they can let those thoughts eventually die out on their own or become quieter by choosing instead to do what they can do, to take the action into their own hands. And then I will add a little extra bonus thing, celebrating their progress, right? Looking back on what they've done and realizing, hey, I did that. And if they can share that with you, if they can share that with their parents, they can share that with whomever, that's awesome, right? We celebrate as a community. We grow as a community. So test prep, weirdly amazing opportunity for pride, for joy, for confidence, for connection even. Students can learn all of these skills that will serve them for the rest of their lives. They can learn how to look at something that's complex and then find a good resource to boil it down to what matters and figure out why it matters, right? I need to learn how to use commas because I know commas are going to show up on here. And now it's on my to-do list. I've got this manageable to-do list. It's 10 items. I know exactly when I'm going to practice them. I'm going to practice over the next 3 weeks. I'm going to practice every day for 20 minutes or an hour. Many ways to study effectively. It depends on the student and their score goals, of course, and how they learn. I'm going to learn this skill on this day, and ideally they'll also have a coach, a tutor to work with them who can show them the specific ins and outs of the test. Next time, we'll continue to look at the aspects of learning and success that the ACT and SAT open the door for, and other insights from my work with students with autism, my students in my experience teaching English as a second language to adult Arabic speakers, all of these interesting educational experiences to make your school the place you want it to be, so that you can implement that amazing vision that you have, and take the stress of knowing whether or not your test prep is what you really want for your students. Just take that off your plate and know with confidence, this test prep is a good representation of how our community supports our students. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to sharing more insights with you next time.